Hey guys, today's lesson is on symmetrical modes, which is following on a concept I talked about the other day where you focus on two string groupings, EA as one, DG and BE. So each group of two strings, and what you want to avoid is the GB pairing, because that's that one that's like when you tune your guitar, it's a major third apart, like you go to the 4th fret instead of the 5th fret. Whereas the rest of the strings are all a 4th apart. So if we avoid that GB grouping and focus on the other string pairs, we get this more symmetrical style of playing where, like for example, the first top line here, this particular shape, this can be transferred now in two other octaves with the exact same shape just by changing string groupings. So when I move up to the D string, I don't have to do anything differently. I just start on the 5th fret, and then I move up to the B string, start on the 8th fret, and it's the same shape. Alright, now this exercise is using the G Ionian Mode, which is another word for the G major scale. It just happens to be the first mode in the major scale. So the notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. So there's only one note that's different from the C major scale, which is that F that becomes an F sharp. Okay, so I'm going to do some more lessons just like this on the other 6 modes, but they are pretty simple to figure out. So once you get this under your fingers, see if you can try to transfer it to some of the other modes in the scale, and I'll be back later on with the rest of these. See you later. Hey guys, so this is the second mode of the major scale. We're in the key of G major, so the second note of the G major scale is A, which means that our second mode is A. Now what I always try to look for is not just the mode itself, but also where does one connect to the next, because that's what gives you the fluency all over the neck. So if the first mode looks like this, you can actually see parts of the second one in there already. There it is, there's A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. And I'm putting the slide on the E string this time, just to avoid some of those uncomfortable stretches. Alright, and we're using the symmetrical approach, which means we're using the string pairings that are in 4ths. E, A, D, G, B, and E. And we're staying away from the G, B, that major third pairing, just so that this makes our shapes all transferable and the same. Alright, so here's the lick slowly. Sorry. Once you get that going on one string, you copy that exact shape up to the next string. And up again to the B string. Alright, and that's your 3-octave Dorian mode, and this is a minor mode. The second chord in the G major scale is A minor. So yeah, experiment with this on some A minor sounds and A minor chords, and I'll see you next time with the third one. Cheers. Hey guys, so here's part 3 of my study of the modes, and this particular approach is a symmetrical approach, which kind of simplifies them because we can take the same shape, the same finger pattern, and move it over 3 octaves without changing it at all. Alright, and this mode is the third mode of the G major scale. And the third note in G major is B. And that the chord that goes with it is a B minor chord, so this mode has a minor quality to it. But it's also the first one in this particular sequence that starts on a semitone, because G and A didn't start on a semitone, but B to C gives this mode a very distinctive sort of quality. So it has that dark Spanish flamenco kind of sound to it. Alright, now the lick that we've got here, I'll slow it down for you and see how it sounds. Sorry. So just taking that same shape and copying it up to the D string and then up to the B string. And the notes we're looking for are B, D, so B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And then we slide up to the A. Alright, so good luck with that. The next one's coming soon. Cheers. Hey guys, so this is part 4 on my series of studies on the modes. We're in the key of G major for all of these modes that I've looked at. And so the 4th mode of G major comes from the 4th note of the G major scale, which is C. And it's called C Lydian. And just to recap on the previous videos, this approach is using a symmetrical type approach, where we avoid the G and B strings as a pair, and we use the other 2 groups of strings, EA, DG and BE. We use those pairs because they're all paired in fourths. So that means any scale shape that you play on those 2 strings is transferable. And this is an example of that, where we've got 3 octaves of the same lick, but we don't have to change any fingerings because the pairings are all the same. Alright, so I'll show you the first one, a bit slower. Now, so once you get that happening at the 8th fret, which is C, you move it up to the 10th fret of the D string and you play the exact same thing. And then you move it up to the 13th fret of the B string and you play the exact same thing again. Alright, and this is called the C Lydian mode. And yeah, I'll be back with the rest for you really soon. Cheers. Hey guys, so today's lesson is part 5 on the modes. So we've covered the first 4. This is the 5th one, which is Mixolydian. So we were in the key of G major for all the other ones. The 5th note of G major is D. So that means the 5th mode of G major is D Mixolydian. So just to recap, a mode is when you play the same notes of the scale but you start on a different note. So if you look down the bottom here, we've got the notes of the G major scale, but instead of starting them on G like here, we start them on D, And that gives it sort of a completely different sound because your ear is hearing a different start point, a different end point, and different intervals in between. And we're using the symmetrical approach, which means we're using the E and A strings, D and G strings, and B and E strings as pairs, because these are the pairs that are all a fourth apart, which makes the shapes all symmetrical and transferable. So you basically only have to learn one finger pattern, and then you copy it and you move it around and you get 3 octaves of the same lick. Alright, so here's the lick, starting on the D note at the 10th fret of the E string. So that little thing at the end there is a slide, sliding up and down. Alright, so that's the first octave. The next one, you go to the 12th fret of your D string, and that's a D as well. You can see it's exactly the same fingering, exactly the same shape. You just move it up, and then you do that one more time, 15th fret of the B string, like this. Alright, and this mode has a very unique sound. It's the only mode in the major scale that covers a dominant chord, because there's only one dominant chord in the major scale, which is the D. So it's got a very unique quality to it, in that it's major. It's got a major third, the F sharp, but it's got a flattened 7th. Because if we were in the key of D major, C would be a C sharp. So that's what makes it different to the D major scale. D major would sound like that. D dominant, D7 sounds like that. So yeah, very unique. And when we play this triplet sort of line, it almost has like an Irish kind of flavour to it. So yeah, it's a very unique sounding mode. Really useful. I did a blues lesson yesterday, and all the modes that I covered in that lesson were Mixolydian. So have a look at that one as well, and you can see some ways that you can apply this. Alright, see you later. Got 2 more of these to come. Cheers. Hey guys, today's lesson is part 6 on the modes of G major scale. I'll probably consider this one to be the most important, or definitely the most common that you'd come across in popular music, rock music. Very useful, just because mode 6 is the relative minor. So any major song that you're in, you can apply this and use the relative minor or the Aeolian mode to solo over your major chords, or when it does move to the minor chord. And 9 out of 10 times in a lot of these songs, for example, if a song is in G, you find a lot of the times in songs that are in G, at some point or another it'll go to the E minor, and that's that relative minor movement that I'm talking about. And same with like other keys. If a song's in C, you know, you usually hear it go to an A minor at some point. If a song's in F, you hear it go to a D minor at some point. So knowing that formula, that 4 frets down from the major key is the relative minor, is a very helpful thing to know, because that also means that you can, if you're in G and you can figure out that E is the relative minor, you can play your E pentatonic licks and E minor licks all over anything that's in G. So that's a good little trick that I still use to figure out what minor scale I can use to overlap over a major scale. Alright, so this little symmetrical lick here is using that 2-string approach, where we use the E-A string pairing, the D-G string pairing, and the B-E string pairing, and that approach means that all of our shapes are transferable. So this is actually just the same lick 3 times in 3 different octaves. And I'll slow it down for you. Sorry. So starting on E at the 12th fret, and that's the first one. The second one, so it's the same thing, but you start on the E that's at the 14th fret of the D string. Last one starts at the 17th fret of the B string. I'm going to use up all the frets that I've got on this guitar. Alright, and so I've written down at the bottom here the notes: E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. And just a recap on modes. So modes are the same scale but starting and ending on a different note. So if we start from G, we get a G major scale. If we start from E, we get the E minor. That's the thing that I talked about. Going back 4 frets, or going back F sharp and starting from the E. So that's mode 6. There's one more of these to come, and then we'll be done. So good luck. See you next time. Hey guys, today is the last installment of my lessons on the modes. So this is part 7, which is the Locrian mode. So the Locrian mode starts from the note that's right behind the tonic note. So we've been doing all the modes in the key of G major, which looks like that. Locrian mode would be starting from F sharp, which is the 7th degree. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, number 7. So you can think of it as a 7th, or you can think of it as just being right next to the tonic. And so also, instead of going up the octave and starting it from here at the 14th, I've started it down here at the 2nd, just because you're going to run out of frets unless you have 24 like this guitar, but it does become hard to play up here. It gets a bit small up there. So yeah, you can do it up the octave if you like, but for the purposes of simplicity, I've done it down at the 2nd fret. So I'll play this lick for you. And just to recap on the approach, we're doing everything in 2-string groupings, and that makes it symmetrical, which means whatever fingerings you use on the first line, the first lick, you use the same ones each time. It's all going to be transferable. So that's the first one there, starting from the 2nd fret. And then that slide brings you into position for your next octave, F sharp, 4th fret of the D string. Sorry. And that brings you sort of in position for your last one, but you just bring your finger up to the 7th fret. Alright, so that's the Locrian mode. So Locrian mode is a bit of a weird one because all the other chords in the major key are major or minor. So G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. When you get to F sharp, it's neither major or minor. It's this half diminished sort of thing. So that chord is starting from F sharp at the 4th fret of the D, and then the 5th fret on the next 3 strings. So this is like a, it's called a minor 7 flat 5 chord, or a half diminished chord. So yeah, it's not your typical major, minor, or dominant. It's kind of like somewhere in between. Has a unique sound. The other way to think of it is, you can think of it as being the top half of like a D9 chord. So if I take that, what I'm playing just there, and I add a D to the bass, now it's a D9 chord. So these are kind of related. You can use some Lockerian stuff over D7 chords if you like, because they're very similar to one another. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask away, and I'll be back with more lessons later on.